Why are you burying yourself alive before your time? Her friend pleaded, trying to shake Valentina out of her despair. Life goes on. Vadik may be gone, but you are still here. Yet Valya sat motionless, her gaze fixed on a single spot, deaf to the world around her. It felt as if everything had crumbled, her past, her future, her very being extinguished, along with her husband's life. Over and over, she replayed their last conversation in her mind. Valush, I promise you, this is the last business trip. I can't miss an opportunity like this. If we sign this contract, we'll be secure for life. Our children too. Vadim's excitement had been infectious as he spoke, the light in his eyes sparkling with hope. Vadik, Valya had replied softly, sadness weighing her voice. We don't even have children. He had only grinned. We will. Don't worry. I'll be back, and we'll take care of that. Pulling her close, he had kissed her temple with a tenderness that still lingered in her memory. 2 days later, his call came, his voice bursting with triumph. Valyushka, dance! We signed the contract. A new market is ours. Whew, I'll be home soon. Let's start planning for our future. Oh, Vadka, you chatterbox, Valya had laughed warmly. Come back faster. I miss you so much. That was the last time she would ever hear his voice. Later that evening, an unfamiliar number flashed on her phone. On the other end, a stranger's voice delivered the blow. Vadim had lost control of his car, veered into oncoming traffic, and crashed directly into a heavy loader. His life was taken in an instant. 2 months dragged by in a suffocating haze. Valya was but a wraith, pale and hollow-eyed. And now, Nellie, her faithful friend, was trying once more to pull her back from the edge. Val, what about the business? Vadik built it for you. You can't just abandon everything you two dreamed of. Nellie worked in Vadim's company, in the sales department, and knew how much it had meant to him. And to Valya, once upon a time. They had been colleagues before Valya met her future husband. Vadim himself had rarely been in the office, preferring to oversee production. Yet fate had a strange hand to play. One day, needing urgent paperwork signed, Valya found herself wandering toward the boss's office. The office internet had gone out completely, and she needed a hard copy signature. Nellie, how am I supposed to send this in? The email's down, she protested, waving the printed application. Lucky you, Nellie said, laughing. Vadim just happens to be here today. It's like he knew the Wi-Fi would crash. Go, run, while you have the chance. Valya approached the office, her heart pounding. She knocked twice, but no response came. Suddenly, a voice behind her startled her so much she nearly jumped out of her skin. Come in! Turning around, she saw a young man dressed casually in jeans and a soft gray-blue sweater that exactly matched the color of his striking eyes. You scared me, she laughed nervously. Are you here to see the boss too? I'm first, by the way. Without waiting for an answer, she marched toward the door and knocked again. When no response came, she huffed in frustration, glancing back at the mysterious stranger. Maybe I can help? He offered, still smiling that warm, enigmatic smile. Oh, sure, Valya said sarcastically, unless you can magically sign this paper for him. No problem, he chuckled, casually taking the sheet from her hands. Leaning against the windowsill, he scrawled a signature with an easy flourish. Valya gasped, snatching the document back. Are you crazy? Now I'll have to print it again. But then something made her pause. She looked again, closer this time, and her heart skipped a beat. The signature was real. He was the boss. Her cheeks burned with embarrassment. I'm so sorry. I didn't realize you were so young, she stammered. The man laughed heartily, a genuine sound that seemed to wash away her mortification. What were you expecting? Some old man with a gray beard and a walking cane? He teased. and Valia couldn't help but laugh along. She blurted out before she could stop herself, "Well, at least not a comedian." Then, biting her lip, she thought, "That's it, I'm fired." "No one's ever called me a comedian before," Vadim said, his eyes crinkling in amusement. "You know, I feel I owe you an apology for scaring you like that. Maybe I can make it up to you over dinner." "You didn't even ask if I'm married," Valia countered, deciding to be bold. "No ring, no tan line. I trust my instincts," he said smoothly. "Get ready for family life then," Valia quipped. It was love at first sight, unexpected, powerful, undeniable. In just 3 days, Vadim proposed, offering a ring and a future filled with promises. Valia accepted without hesitation. She continued working in the company, despite whispers wondering why a wealthy man's wife would bother with a job. Vadim never tried to stop her. He respected her independence, honored her spirit. For 5 beautiful years, they lived a life filled with laughter, plans, and dreams, until tragedy stole it all away. If you're still with me, thank you for being here. Stories like these remind us of how fragile yet precious life can be. If you're feeling touched by Valia's journey so far, feel free to leave a soft thumbs up to help support more heartfelt stories like this one. The grief overwhelmed Valia. She couldn't bear to be at work, surrounded by memories and empty spaces where Vadim's laughter once lived. She took a leave of absence, retreating into a shell. Nellie, ever the loyal friend, visited often, trying to bring light back into the somber house. "Val, please," Nellie urged one afternoon. "You're not alone. What would Vadik say if he could see you like this? You need to live. For yourself. For him." Valia merely shook her head, lost in a thick fog of sorrow. Suddenly, she bolted from the room, one hand clamped over her mouth, and rushed to the bathroom. A few minutes later, she returned, even paler than before. "Oh, great. Now you've worked yourself up," Nellie muttered, wringing her hands. "You're going to give yourself an ulcer." She offered to cook, but Valia once again sprinted for the bathroom. Nellie's eyes widened. She gasped, covering her mouth with both hands. "Wait a second. Could it be?" "Could what be?" Valia asked weakly, wiping her mouth with a trembling hand. "Valia, you're pregnant," Nellie declared with certainty. Valia's world tilted. No, that's not possible." But as she thought about it, the timing, the symptoms, it all made sense. In the whirlwind of funerals, mourning, and depression, the most important part of Vadim's legacy had quietly taken root inside her. "How far along do you think you are?" Nellie asked, hope glimmering in her voice. "About 3 months, Valia whispered after some mental math. "I'll go to the doctor to be sure." And just like that, a spark was reignited within her. "There is something to live for," she realized. "A little life growing inside me, a part of him that still remains." Nellie embraced her friend tightly, sensing with a sixth sense that everything would be all right now. And it was. Valia's pregnancy went smoothly, despite the lingering shadow of grief. Morning sickness passed quickly, and the dark cloud that had enveloped her began to lift. Every thought now revolved around her child. Valia inherited Vadim's company but avoided the public eye, not wanting to be seen as the young wealthy widow, easy prey for fortune hunters. She spread a rumor that Vadim had sold the business to an anonymous partner and gave management power to Leonid, his chief engineer. It was a risk, but Valia knew she needed time to heal, rebuild, and protect her child. She promised herself she would return to work after maternity leave. For now, her only priority was the little life blossoming within her. The day came. "Congratulations, Mama, it's a boy." The midwife beamed, placing a wriggling pink bundle against Valia's chest. Tears of joy and sorrow welled up in her eyes as she cradled her son. "What will you name him?" they asked. "Dennis," Valentina whispered, smiling as she stroked the soft down of her baby's head. Outside, waiting to welcome them, were Nelly and Leonid. "Valia, you have to hire help," Nelly insisted as they helped her settle back at home. "You can't do this alone forever." "I'll manage," Valia said, laughing softly. "Dennis is so calm sometimes, I feel like he's raising me." Their laughter filled the house, warming it once more. Life, it seemed, had found a way to bloom again. If you're finding yourself drawn into Valia's journey, I warmly invite you to leave a little heart in the comments or share your thoughts. Every word of encouragement helps build a beautiful community around these shared human experiences. 2 years passed in the blink of an eye. Dennis grew into a lively, curious boy. Valia returned to work, stepping quietly back into the business she now owned, though few knew it. Under Leonid's steady hand, the company had flourished, carving out an even stronger position in the market. Profits were up, opportunities were blooming. Meanwhile, Nelly's life had blossomed too. She and Leonid had grown closer, their bond deepening into love. Recently, he had proposed, and although Nelly had hesitated at first, fearful of what fate might hold, Valia had helped her see reason. "Nelly," she had said, "whether you're married or not, life is unpredictable. Better to live it fully than hide from it." Realizing the truth of her words, Nelly joyfully accepted, and soon they celebrated a quiet, heartfelt wedding. Elsewhere, trouble brewed. At a nearby construction company run by Nazar Dubrovin, disaster struck when a major supplier missed a critical delivery. Deadlines loomed, reputations were on the line, orders barked down from management. Find new suppliers now. Nikolai, the head of procurement, and the son of the company's chief accountant, frantically searched for alternatives. High prices, slow deliveries, nothing fit. Then, almost by accident, he noticed a small, almost forgotten advertisement tucked on his computer screen. Valia's company. "Well, well," he muttered, opening the link. Moments later, he was dialing the number. Valia answered, calm and professional. She had already caught wind of the situation and was prepared. She quickly listed the materials available, quoted fair prices, and offered a generous discount on additional supplies. Nikolai agreed immediately, setting a meeting within the hour. Leonid, ever vigilant, did a quick background check. "Good company," he confirmed to Valia. "Solid reputation. They had a bad manager before. That's why Vadim stayed away. But now, a new era, worth dealing with." When Nikolai arrived, it didn't go unnoticed. Tall, broad-shouldered, the image of classic masculinity. He caught the eye of many female employees. But Valia stayed focused, discussing the contract with crisp confidence. They shook hands. The deal was sealed. "Maybe we should celebrate," Nikolai smiled. "After all, you just saved our skins." Valia hesitated, but a silent nod from Nelly behind Nikolai pushed her forward. "All right," she agreed. "It's been a long time since I had a reason to celebrate." Over dinner, they discussed future cooperation and mutual plans. It was pleasant, easy. As the evening wound down, Nikolai leaned forward, his voice lower, more hesitant. "Valentina, could we meet outside of work?" Valia smiled softly, a hint of sadness in her eyes. "I have a young son. I can't be away for long." Surprise flickered across Nikolai's face. He hadn't expected that. "You don't look—" He stumbled. "I'm a widow," she said simply, rising from her chair. Nikolai stood too, apologizing profusely. "Let me at least drive you home." Back home, Nikolai couldn't shake her from his mind. He told his mother, Inessa, everything. She frowned thoughtfully. If memory serves, she's the widow of the company's former owner. Tragic story. A spark lit in Nikolai's mind. Greedy, calculating. But his mother scolded him. "Calm down. Vadim sold the company before his death. Valentina is no heiress. Still, she's a good match. pretty, strong, and the child is past the sleepless night stage. She gave him a meaningful look. Take her seriously. And so Nikolai did. He visited often under the pretense of work, but his real intentions grew clearer with each passing day. Slowly, carefully, he worked his way into Valya's life, into her heart. If you feel your heart pulling for Valya, cheering for her to find new happiness, let her story know by gently tapping that like button. Every small gesture matters more than you think. Valya hadn't fallen head over heels this time. Nikolai was kind, attentive, patient, and that was enough. She let him into her world gradually, testing the waters cautiously. One day, she introduced him to Dennis. The boy didn't show much enthusiasm, but he didn't reject Nikolai either. That was good enough for Valya. Things progressed naturally. Nikolai moved in, and before long, he proposed. Valya hesitated only briefly. She thought of Nelly, now heavily pregnant, and felt a deep desire for stability, for herself, for her son. It's not Vadik, she thought, but maybe it doesn't have to be. Maybe it's time to live again. They married quietly, with no grand celebration. Nelly, busy with her newborn daughter, sent her blessings and a thoughtful gift, luxurious bedding that Valya would later treasure more than she expected. At first, life seemed peaceful, but boredom gnawed at Nikolai. The steady rhythm of family life, meals, bedtime stories, quiet nights, felt like a swamp pulling him down. He craved passion, excitement. And when he met a flirty young waitress during lunch one day, he didn't resist temptation. The affair was easy, thrilling, hidden, at least for a time. Nikolai thought nothing of skimming a few $1,000s here and there for expensive gifts. He convinced himself Valya was too busy with work and Dennis to notice. Meanwhile, major changes loomed. Leonid approached Valya with an exciting proposal, a merger with Nazar Dubrovin's construction empire. It was a bold move, one that could skyrocket their company into a new league of success. For us, it's access to new markets. For them, a guaranteed supplier, Leonid explained eagerly. Valya weighed the risks, the rewards, and agreed. They sent an official offer to Nazar. Days later, the answer came. Nazar was interested. Meetings were scheduled, contracts prepared, dreams were set in motion. At home, oblivious, Nikolai continued his double life. When Valya mentioned the merger casually, he barely listened, bragging instead about the important meeting he had scheduled. He had no idea he was speaking to the true owner of the company he was now negotiating with. The documents were reviewed, the final presentation completed. Success was within reach. "Val," Leonid said one day with a mischievous grin, "you've been formally invited to Nazar's anniversary party. That's where the contract will be signed. You'll have to come out of the shadows at last." Valya laughed, half dreading the spotlight. Interestingly, Nikolai said nothing about the party at home. Valya decided to wait, curious to see how he would spin it. As the date approached, she noticed her husband getting ready to go out. "Going somewhere?" she asked casually, stirring a pot on the stove. "Just a game of billiards with colleagues," he said, avoiding her eyes. "Maybe take Dennis along," she suggested sweetly. No way. Not appropriate for kids," Nikolai stammered, quickly spraying on cologne and rushing out. Valya smiled to herself, heart beating steadily. "All right, Kolenka," she thought. "We'll meet soon enough, but not as husband and wife." If you're still with Valya on this journey, silently cheering for her strength, your support means more than you know. Feel free to stay with me. The best part of her story is yet to unfold. Valya dressed carefully that evening. She dropped Dennis off at Nelly's house. Her friend was always happy to look after him, and little Alice adored Denise. Then, with hours still to spare, Valya headed to a salon. She had her hair styled, applied light but elegant makeup, and visited a boutique to find the perfect outfit. An elegant evening suit that fit her body perfectly, accentuating her natural beauty without revealing the hardships she had endured. Standing before the mirror, twirling in her new shoes, the consultant smiled warmly at her. "You look wonderful, truly," she said sincerely. Valia checked her watch. It was time. Meanwhile, Nikolai was already at the restaurant, walking confidently inside with a young woman clinging to his arm. "Just pretend you're my wife," he whispered into her ear. "Your little cow is probably making borscht at home," the girl giggled. Nikolai laughed along, completely unaware that tonight everything would change. Inessa Yurievna, his mother, spotted them entering and immediately dragged Nikolai aside, anger flashing in her eyes. "Have you lost your mind? Who did you bring here? What if someone tells Valentina?" "Relax, Mom," Nikolai shrugged. "No one will notice. Besides, we look great together." Inessa shook her head in disgust. She didn't love Valentina, but she respected her, and deep down she knew Valia deserved better than this humiliation. The restaurant was filling up fast. Soft music played, laughter floated through the air. Waiters moved smoothly between tables. Nazar Dubrovin welcomed each guest personally. But he kept glancing toward the entrance, wondering where the mysterious new business partner, the real owner, could be. Valia arrived quietly, unnoticed at first. She scanned the room and saw him, Nikolai, with his arm casually around the waist of a young woman, their heads bent close together in laughter. Valia's heart didn't even flinch. "Thank you, God," she thought. "Thank you for letting me see it with my own eyes." She stayed back, unnoticed. No need to create a scene, no need to fight for someone so undeserving. Soon, Nazar took the stage. "Friends, thank you for coming. Tonight is not just about my birthday. Tonight, another important event will take place. The merger of two companies, a partnership that will change all our futures." Applause erupted. "We're just waiting for the new company's owner to arrive," Nazar added, searching the crowd. Valia stepped forward then, calm and radiant. "Nazar Yegorovich," she said warmly, "allow me to congratulate you on behalf of our company. Please accept this small gift, a tool with which we'll make business history together." She handed him an elegant designer pen in a sleek case. Murmurs spread through the crowd. All eyes turned to her. Whispers buzzed. Shock rippled. Leonid stepped forward with a grin. "Forgive us for the secrecy, friends. Allow me to introduce Valentina Antonovna, the true owner of our company." Nazar laughed heartily, delighted. "Well, this is a good surprise," he said, already signing the merger contract with the gifted pen. Valia signed too, their handshake sealed not just a business deal, but a new chapter of life. Meanwhile, across the room, Nikolai's face drained of color. The young woman he had brought quickly slipped away, but it was too late. Valia approached him, not with anger, but with dignified calm. "I think you understand," she said simply. "Tell me where to send your things. Return the house keys." Nikolai tried to stammer excuses, but Inessa stepped in, her face like thunder. She slapped her son, not hard, but hard enough to sting his pride. "I didn't know either, I swear," she muttered apologetically to Valia. But Valia simply smiled and walked away, her heart lighter than it had been in years. The evening sparkled with laughter, music, and possibilities. Nikolai resigned from the company soon after. How could he stay, now that his ex-wife was also his boss? If you've made it this far, thank you for walking every step of Valia's incredible journey. If her strength and resilience moved you even a little, don't hesitate to show it with a warm thumbs up. It helps these life stories continue to bloom. Nazar watched Valentina all evening, admiration clear in his eyes. He wasn't married, His life had been consumed by building his business empire, by striving, achieving, conquering. Yet as he observed Valia, so strong, so radiant despite everything she had endured, something inside him stirred for the first time in years. He didn't rush. He knew Valia had been deeply hurt. He knew she needed time, trust, and space. Slowly, with infinite patience, he worked his way into her life. First as a business partner, then as a friend, and finally as something more. Together they nurtured the merged company, watching it thrive. Dennis grew into a bright, happy boy, and he and Nazar formed an easy bond, something Nikolai had never managed. Dennis adored the man who treated him with respect and genuine kindness, not out of obligation, but out of love. It took Valia a long time to understand Nazar's intentions were serious, longer still for her heart to catch up. But catch up it did. Slowly and carefully, love bloomed again. Their partnership, rooted in shared values, mutual respect, and deep admiration, grew into something rare and beautiful, a true family. Hand in hand, they built a new life together, stronger and more joyful than Valia had ever dared to dream of after Vadim's death. She knew her path had been hard, marked by loss, betrayal, and sorrow, but it had led her here, to a happiness forged in fire, resilient and real. Thank you for staying with Valia's story until the very end. If her resilience and second chances inspired you, I'd love it if you gave this channel a heartfelt thumbs up. It helps bring more real emotional life stories to others who might need a little hope today. And if you're curious, recent studies have uncovered a fascinating natural discovery, a mysterious purple shell that may help boost fat burning during sleep, naturally, effortlessly, and without strict diets or grueling workouts. You'll find all the details in the video description. It's a simple, beautiful discovery that, like Valia's story, reminds us that change often happens quietly, when we least expect it. Wishing you joy, resilience, and endless second chances.